Hello, everybody. It's Dave Neal, stand-up comic and host of Bachelor Nation News. We've got a LA Times article here that came out yesterday featuring Katie Thurston. It says, why this former Bachelorette turned aspiring comedian traded love for laughs. I'll tell you what, I haven't read the article myself. I wanted to read it live for you guys. These opinion articles, entertainment and arts, are usually written really well. So I figured I would just spend the time here reading it for you guys. And let me know what you guys think. Leave a comment, like it, subscribe on Patreon, all that jazz. Okay, here we go. You ready for this? In March 2021, Katie Thurston stood in a ball gown in front of 30 men, each of them vying to become her husband. As the lead of ABC's The Bachelorette, the former bank marketing manager from Linwood, Washington, had become a well-known entity in the decades-old reality franchise. The previous year, Thurston had finished 11th on Match Aim's season of The Bachelor, where she quickly became a fan favorite for her sex positivity and overall candor. These days, Thurston still regularly stands in front of audiences, but instead of trying to find love, she's more concerned with creating laughter. 2 years out from leading The Bachelorette, the OG dating show where one single person dates many contestants in the hopes of getting engaged, Thurston now lives in San Diego and is proudly minus a +1. She's officially an aspiring comedian. In addition to pounding the pavement at local open mic nights, Thurston, 32, has done quickie opening sets for high-profile acts such as Whitney Cummings and Eliza Schlesinger. The Cummings connection, Thurston says, happened as a direct result of her time as The Bachelorette. I ended up meeting Whitney while we were both on the set of Jimmy Kimmel, Thurston recalls. We're both tucking into ahi tuna balls in La Jolla at a Hawaiian-themed restaurant with a stunning view of the Pacific coast. I saw her backstage and I was like, oh my God, I'm such a big fan. I love women in comedy. She's so badass. I didn't even know she knew who I was or watched The Bachelorette. It sounded like she did because next thing you know, she's inviting me onto her podcast and we just had such great chemistry. Then I mentioned I've been thinking of getting into comedy and she's like, oh, do you want to open for me? As sudden as the Cummings opportunity sounds, Thurston had technically been toying with the idea of becoming a comedian long before her stint with the Bachelor Nation. It all started with a Valentine's Day rant just for my friends that Thurston posted to Facebook when she was 20 years old. Even among her circle of friends and family, the video got so many comments that Thurston tried launching a YouTube channel, though she quickly had to delete it because of her job in finance. We're managing millions of dollars for potentially conservative people, and the topics I'm talking about are not safe for work. After that, she tried taking improv classes but didn't gel with the yes and format. In 2019, Thurston again started playing with the pursuit of comedy. By this time, she was more established in her finance career, about to turn 30, and had amassed about 2 years' worth of material. Then the pandemic hit, and all the comedy clubs closed down. So she began posting on TikTok, still in its infancy, and built a grassroots following based on her conversational style, which sometimes included ruminations on quarantine, masturbation, and sex with ghosts. I just had this I don't give a shit attitude, Thurston says of her early content. I truly believe it's because of my TikTok presence The Bachelor producers were able to see, oh, she's comfortable on camera. To be a contestant on The Bachelor, you can either be nominated or you can apply yourself. Either way, you'll need to film an audition video. Though she was already a prolific content creator prior to being cast on The Bachelor, Thurston looked at comedy as more of a hobby than a potential career track. I really thought I was going to be in my banking and finance career. That's what I was in for the last 10 years, and comedy would be a passion project, and I would just continue my life in Washington. If you told me that all the things that happened in the last 2 years were going to happen, I would be like, you're crazy. It's not hard to see why Thurston was handpicked to lead The Bachelorette. While participating in Match Aim's season, Thurston led with humor, sexual frankness. She famously walked out of the night one limo brandishing a vibrator, and an impatience for bullying. At one point, she took James aside, a risky move in the history of the franchise, and diplomatically informed him about the mob mentality forming among the contestants in the house. Later, as The Bachelorette, Thurston ended her season with an engagement to contestant Blake Moynes, though they mutually parted ways in October 2021. A few months after the season's end. Soon, Thurston kicked off another relationship, this time with another contestant from her season, John Hersey. They broke up in June 2022. In an interview on Bachelor Nation personality Caitlin Bristow's Off the Vine podcast, Thurston said, I think it was just unavoidable. We just got on a conversation, and at one point I just said to him, I know more reasons why you don't like me than why you love me, and that's a really shitty feeling, you know. After the Bachelorette promotion wrapped in fall 2021, Thurston quickly relocated from her home near Seattle to San Diego, where she found an apartment for herself and Moynes, who would be moving from Canada, a cohabitation plan that ultimately fell through. Then, when Cummings invited Thurston to open for her Anaheim date of the Touch Me Tour, the former Bachelorette was thrilled, even more so than being asked to date 30 men and travel the world on ABC's dime. However, among other issues, she didn't feel the support she needed from Moynes. We are both very much on totally different paths, Thurston says matter-of-factly. I'm a big believer in signs. That night that I performed for Whitney, I went home, and that was the same night Blake and I had a phone call and decided to end our engagement. Thurston has dated since her relationship with Hersey ended. She cites a little situationship from this past summer, which also fell apart. Instead of wallowing, Thurston is reveling in her single status and using dating stories as stand-up fodder. I was getting tired of men and dating, truly. I was so built up with anger of failure after failing when it came to dating, it inspired me to start writing. I was like, F dating. I'm focusing on me now. I'm going to pursue what I want. I don't have to ask permission. I don't have to adjust my life around anyone. Soon, Thurston was attending open mic nights at Mic Drop in San Diego. Normally, open mics are in this tiny little gold room, but for whatever reason, the night I was finally ready to do my first open mic, we were all in the big main room. And I was like, I can't help but feel this is a sign from the universe. This is the path I'm supposed to be on. On stage, Thurston's style is confessional, engaging, and self-deprecating. Yes, she dips into her time as Bachelorette. One bit likens her experience choosing different shades of white paint to the Bachelor producers selecting a lead. But generally speaking, Thurston is not overly interested in mining her Bachelorette experiences for stage material. It's not a priority. I think in my last show, there were maybe 2 jokes. While there's so much that has happened, I am ready to not keep reliving it. The jokes that I've made are publicly known things. If we're talking behind the scenes jokes, that's just not a monster I want to fight for in terms of an NDA or bashing the franchise. You can close doors, but you don't want to burn bridges. Unlike other Bachelor Nation alumni, Thurston has not matriculated through the franchise much since her season. She's appeared on a few Bachelor-themed podcasts and maintains relationships with a few of the women on Matt James' season, but you probably won't find her vying for a spot on Bachelor in Paradise or doling out advice to the leads on future Bachelorette seasons. Would I go back? No. Do I want to make it my identity or my primary content in comedy? No. But is it still part of my history? You can never really fully get away from it. It was a moment of time, and I'm just moving on. Part of the reason for Thurston's decision to not actively engage with the Bachelor franchise, unsurprisingly, has to do with mental health. In March 2020, former Bachelorette Rachel Lindsay appeared on the season's Women Tell All episode, where she led a discussion around the graphic, hateful messages, generally stemming from social media, the show's contestants receive. Though Thurston doesn't go into detail, it's clear her experiences with the show, both as contestant and as lead, have created a need to get some distance. It's a lot to go through. You have to gauge how much is it worth making a statement on. There are things I could very much have an opinion on publicly if I wanted to, Thurston says, citing controversial subjects like former franchise host Chris Harrison, who recently launched a podcast after being fired in 2021. But it's not worth risking my mental health. Overall, I've learned a lot about when to speak and when to shut up. The one thing Thurston will say about The Bachelor, she is not actively watching the new season starring Zach Shall-Cross, is that the franchise needs to evolve more quickly if it hopes to keep up with newer dating shows, which take more creative risks and don't shy away from taboo subjects such as how couples handle money and different political and or religious views. I do remember tuning in occasionally and being like, this date feels very familiar. This storyline feels very familiar. This drama feels really similar. It is not a very creative experience for the viewer now, she says. I know the show is trying to figure out how to get back to its roots. What that means in a world of social media, I don't know. In my opinion, and people can argue both ways, I feel like you're losing your audience to other dating shows. Now firmly in her post-Bachelorette era, Thurston is determined to make the most of the comedy opportunities coming her way, while also staying aware of how she got them. There is this level of guilt, she admits. There's so many comedians who have worked so hard to get stage time, and they've worked so hard to build their brand name, and I do recognize I've been handed this platform. But I'm also putting in the work. I'm doing the open mics. I'm doing what's called barking, which is where you're on the streets handing out flyers. I recognize the advantage I have, but I also am going to present the work just like everyone else. When Thurston spoke to Whitney Cummings about her relative privilege, her mentor had a take-no-prisoners reply. Women, especially in comedy, already have it hard enough. Thurston remembers Cummings telling her, use every advantage you can. Own it. Embrace it. Do not feel guilty about it. It was that moment where I realized she is so freaking right. So I try to remind myself from time to time, don't feel bad about the opportunities you're given. Take advantage of them, because otherwise you're just wasting it. Another pearl of wisdom Thurston received from comedy kingpin Dane Cook: be careful. Don't F the comics. Looking ahead, that's some good advice. Looking ahead, Thurston describes 2023 as the moment before you jump off of a cliff. She's doing open mics on a nearly nightly basis where absolutely nothing is off limits, from bad sex stories to scatological accidents. It's such a gift to have a room that is quiet and all of a sudden everyone's laughing. I just love making people laugh. That is such a high. I would take that over sex. I always tell people when I tell them I'm a comedian and I try to own that, Thurston continues. What that means to me, I'm pursuing comedy, but also say I will have a Netflix special, just watch me. It might not be this year, but I promise you, I want you to remember me. Very nice article. Very nice, well-written article by Rachel Brodsky of Los Angeles Times. And, you know, I dipped into the Reddit to see what people were saying about it, which is generally good. People said she's really putting in the work. We love to see a hardworking woman grind it out. Much success to her. Almost any new comic just starting out has the benefit of bombing at small mics amongst mainly peers. Katie is working out her material and comedic identity in front of way larger audiences than usual for comics at her level. I'm not a huge fan of Katie, but it's very brave and I'm proud of her. I hope this critical spotlight doesn't get to her and make her stop something she loves that she could work to get really good at. Kudos, Katie. And apparently, and again, other people have said, well, so many comics will be bitter that she's jumping the line. And as Whitney Cummings had said, there are so many things working against you in the world of stand-up that you just take whatever you have. And if you don't put in the time and have an audience, they'll just never come back for a second show. Comedy, much like all things creative, it's not about creating one product. It's about harvesting a long-time relationship with the consumer, the fan, the audience, the relation that exists there. So you can go viral and have a crazy audience, but if you're not good in the moment, if the audience feels like you're just taking their money and don't have a true passion, they won't come back for round 2. So for Katie Thurston, this is round 1. And when it comes time for round 2, round 3, round 4, every year as she tours or grows her channel or content or how it evolves in different ways, it's up to her as she decides what she wants to do with that. Now, I responded into the Reddit post, and I'll share with you guys what I had to say. Sharing some thoughts as a comic who has worked for the last decade at stand-up. Any comedian who is bitter at Katie doing stand-up isn't working hard enough on their act. And this also applies to anybody who's bitter about other people. When you judge others, which I have done plenty of in my day, trust me, I've had to battle bitterness myself. When you judge others, you're never judging someone else who's not doing as well as you. You're always judging someone who's doing better off. And rather than judge them, deconstruct what they're doing. Look at how hard they're working. Look at why they are receiving so many opportunities and fight to get that for yourself. So as I said, any comedian who is bitter at Katie doing stand-up isn't working hard enough on their act. There's an unlimited amount of stage time for those that have an audience and desire to perform. Any comedian who has seen Katie doing stand-up knows she's doing it the right way, working out at open mics, supporting other comedians, absorbing tips and tricks from older comics. She didn't get the luxury to work out her material at random open mics for 5 years. She was scrutinized for every word she said for 2 years. So maybe she didn't pay her comedy dues the same way others do, but she has sure paid her dues in other ways. If you haven't been publicly shamed or discussed in forums, you won't understand the dread that comes with feeling ostracized. I'm happy she's found a creative path, and I'm just posing, and not just posing for cute pics in a hot tub. Plenty of Bachelor alumni struck it rich in the Instagram golden age of the last 4 years. Plenty of leads have gotten wild deals for playing along with the narrative the producers want. I think in several years, people will look back at Katie's tenure as Bachelorette and realize they didn't appreciate someone who was trying to keep it real while also being very generous with how she shares her platform. I don't just say this because I know Katie. I felt this way watching her on Matt's season. Either way, our show in San Diego sold out fast, so I know she's got a lot of loyal fans out there. We'll have plenty of video to share of the meet and greet and the special gift bag she's giving out to the VIP tickets. So anyway, that's just a friendly reminder to stay in your lane, work hard, and not worry about someone else's route to success. Let me know what you guys think. I have more content coming your way. Patreon.com/Dave Neal. Private live stream this morning, 10:30 a.m. Tons of stand-up shows coming your way if you want to see me in California. If you want to see Katie and possibly me perform in other communities, Austin, Denver, St. Louis, Nashville, Memphis, other Florida areas, send her a DM. Let her know. Maybe tickets will be on sale. All right, folks, more content coming your way. We'll see you in a bit.